Today we're looking at another rigid motion. This one is called rotations. So the essential question is, how do I apply the rules for rotations? Your learning intention. I'm learning to identify the different types of rigid motions, rigid transformations, and apply the rules to find image points or pre-image points. You've got two warm-up questions. The first one tells you to reflect the figure over the line y equals -1. And the second has you reflect over the line x equals -1. Pause the video and see if you can do those two warm-up questions on your own. Well, I do hope you tried. If we're looking at y is equal to -1, is that going to be a horizontal or a vertical line? It's going to be horizontal. So the first thing I will do is to actually mark that line. So this is the line y equals -1. Now I can count. I count 1, 2, 1, 2. This is my Q prime. 1, 2, 1, 2. This is Z prime. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. S prime. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is N prime. Now you simply draw line segments connecting the points, and we are done. Okay, if y is equal to is that horizontal line, x is equal to is what kind of a line? Vertical would be the correct answer. So where is x equal to -1? Once again, you have to do the counting. It's quick and easy. I count to the line that I'm reflecting over. I've got W is 1. I come over here. This is my W prime. If you notice, it's not moving up and down. It's just moving right and left. Okay, this is 1, 2, 1, 2. E prime. Okay, now I'm on the other side of my line of reflection. 1, 2, 1, 2. And this will be R prime. Connect your dots. And we are done. So you're reflecting, it's a lot of counting. You count to your line of reflection and then you do an equidistant to the other side. Rotations go around the y-axis, the coordinate grid. Okay, if it's a rotation around the origin, here's your origin. Think about what's going to happen. How many degrees are there in a circle? 360 is correct. So if I go from here to here, this is 1/4 of the circle. That would be 90 degrees. If I come all the way around to here, that's 2/4 of the circle, which would be 180 degrees. And if I come down here, this would be 3/4 and all the rest of the way around. So a 180 degrees rotation will go halfway around. If I start in coordinate 1, it will go to coordinate 3. If I do a 90 degrees counterclockwise, remember this is counterclockwise. Now 90 degrees counterclockwise will start in coordinate 1 and go to 2. If it is clockwise, 90 degrees starts in 1 and goes to 4. So we're going to take a look at this and see what happens. But you have a table that tells you what to do with your points. A 90 degrees clockwise rotation is the same as a 270 degrees counterclockwise. With 180 degrees, it doesn't matter because you're going halfway around. A 270 degrees clockwise is the same as a 90 degrees counterclockwise. And this is what you do. Here's your pre-image and here's your rotated image. So if I want to rotate the point, -1, -5, 90 degrees clockwise, I'm using the first formula. Okay, that formula tells me I'm going to change y and x around. So y is -5 and x is -1. Switch them, change x to its opposite. So this becomes a +1. (180 degrees). I look up here. They're the same except both of the points are their opposites. So I don't change the 5, I don't change the -5. They stay in the same position. But now I change it to the opposite. This becomes a -5, +5. Try the next one on your own. 90 degrees counterclockwise. If you notice, it's the last row. What do you do and what does it look like? Well, I hope you tried the next one and you're just looking for the answer. Okay, my formula tells me that I switch the y and the x around. So this becomes -30, 15. That's the first step. Second step is to change y to its opposite. Right now it's a negative number. It will become positive because that will be the opposite. (270 degrees counterclockwise around the origin). First one. Can you quickly do what it tells you to do? You change x and y around, so it's -12, -9. Change them around and then change x to its opposite. Right now it's -9, so it becomes +9, and that is how you apply those rules. Okay, we're going to rotate in the degrees indicated. If I'm starting here and I'm going counterclockwise, that means I should end up in the second quadrant. I'm going to look at my points. This is -1, 2, down 1, 2, 3, -2, -3. F is -1, -5. And U is the point -1, 2, 3, 4. And this will also be -5. So this is mapped onto H prime. So I look at 270 degrees counterclockwise, 270 degrees counterclockwise. I switch them, and then my x value becomes the opposite. So this is switched to -3, -2, and then my x value becomes the opposite. So it becomes -3, +2. For H, it is mapped onto, for F prime. it is mapped onto. Switch them around, -5, -1, it becomes a +1. Okay, do U prime. Switch them. Then the second number becomes its opposite. -5, -4, and this becomes a +4. Now let's graph. -3, 2. This is my H prime. -5, 1. I'm going to have to move it. There is my F prime, H prime, and finally -5, 4 is my U prime. Connect your dots. When I'm doing this, a quick check is to make sure they look exactly the same, except they're rotated. Okay, pause the video and see if you can do that 90 degrees counterclockwise rotation. If you're looking at the table, counterclockwise is the opposite of Y, X. Okay, pause the video and see how far you can get on your own. Okay, the point S is 2, 2. So S prime, switch them around. 2, 2, first one becomes negative. Think about what's happening. Counterclockwise means it will go to your third quadrant. Okay, for B, it's the point 4, 5. B prime. 5, 4. First number becomes its opposite. And finally, for L, it's the point 5, 0, and that is mapped onto 0, 5. Does 0 have an opposite? No. So we're ready to graph now. -2, 2. Go over 2 and go up 2. And that is my S prime. -5, 4. B prime. And then 0, 5. And that is L prime. Okay, for the next one, we're going to graph both the original points and their image after a 180-degree clockwise rotation. Clockwise, counterclockwise, doesn't matter. No. So what we do know is that we use the fact that it becomes the opposite of x and the opposite of y. So I'm going to graph the first. I'm going to graph and I'm going to make the figure. -1, -5. That is C. -1, 0 is K. 1, 1 is C. And 3, -2 is N. So this is my very first graph. I haven't done anything to it. Now let's get the prime. Z prime. Remember, 180-degree rotation is going to bring it up to it's coming from here and it's going up here. So -1, -5, we just find their opposites. The opposite of -1 is 1. The opposite of -5 is 5. 1, 5. Okay, for K prime, the opposite of -1 is +1. 0 doesn't have an opposite. Okay, for C prime, the opposite of +1 is -1. The opposite of +1 is -1. This becomes -1, -1. C prime. I'd have to move my identifier here. And then finally for N prime, the 3 becomes a -3, the -2 becomes 2. So -3, 2. Connect your dots. And there you go. So apply those rules to find the new points. How do you know you're successful? You know you're successful when you can identify the different types of rigid transformations and apply the rules to find the image points or the pre-image points. Rotations. Remember, there's that table for your rules.